They burned the evidence, banned the scriptures, and lied to your face for 500 years. But today, right now, you're about to uncover the real Bible story they prayed you'd never discover. This isn't just history. It's a spiritual war for your identity. And by the end of this video, you'll never see Christianity or yourself the same way again. They thought they buried this truth forever, but the stones themselves are screaming for justice. The buried truth of the Bible. You were taught a lie, a carefully constructed deception built over centuries, designed to make you bow your head in shame when you should stand tall in power. Let me show you what they erased. Genesis 2 verse 7 says God formed Adam from the dust of the earth. But what dust? Scientific analysis shows the richest, reddest soil matching that description comes from only one place, the African Rift Valley, the cradle of humanity, Adam's birthplace. Yet for 400 years, Sunday school paintings have shown you a pale-skinned Adam. Ask yourself, why? The rivers of the Garden of Eden are clearly named in Genesis 2 verse 13. The Gin River still flows through Ethiopia today. The Pison encircles the land of Avila, modern-day Sudan and Eritrea. Eden wasn't some mythical European paradise. It was here, in Africa, where humanity began. Now consider Nimrod, the mighty hunter of Genesis 10 verse 8, grandson of Ham, founder of Babylon. They painted him as a villain, but ancient texts describe his skin as black as the night sky. His name means we shall rebel, not against God, but against those who rewrote our history. The greatest deception? The curse of Ham. Slave owners twisted Genesis 9 to claim God cursed black people with servitude. Here's what they don't want you to know. Noah didn't curse Ham. He cursed Canaan. And Canaan's descendants settled in Israel, not Africa. This lie was invented in 1684 by a Dutch theologian named Jacobus Kapteyn, who just happened to work for the Dutch slave trade. Exodus 21 verse 16 is clear. He who kidnaps a person shall be put to death. Yet the same men who quoted scripture while whipping our ancestors conveniently skipped this verse. Psalm 68 verse 31 prophesied, Ethiopia shall stretch out her hands to God. A verse so dangerous, slave Bibles physically removed it. The eunuch baptized by Philip in Acts 8, Ethiopian. The queen of Sheba who tested Solomon's wisdom, ruler of an African kingdom. Simon, who carried Christ's cross in Mark 15 verse 21, a black man from Cyrene in modern-day Libya. Everywhere you look, the Bible shouts Africa's central role in salvation history, while European translations whisper, this isn't about rewriting scripture. It's about stripping away 500 years of whitewashed lies. The earliest Coptic churches in Egypt depicted Jesus with dark skin and coiled hair for 1,500 years. The Vatican's oldest Bible, the Codex Vaticanus, originally described his feet as bronze before later scribes changed it. Deuteronomy 28 verse 68 predicted Israelites would return to Egypt in slave ships. Modern DNA proves Zimbabwe's Lemba tribe carries the Cohen gene, the mark of Jewish priests. When slave ships crossed the Atlantic, they weren't just stealing men and women. They were kidnapping God's chosen people and severing them from their heritage. The evidence is everywhere, once you know where to look. At Jabal al-Lawz in Saudi Arabia, the real Mount Sinai, you'll find Hebrew petroglyphs and the split rock of Horeb. The Exodus didn't happen in some vague desert. It was an African miracle with Moses' Midianite wife Zipporah, a Cushite woman, by his side. They told you Africa had no history, no civilization, no place in God's plan. But every artifact, every inscription, every strand of DNA screams the truth. This isn't just history, it's your legacy. And next, we'll expose how they stole the Ark of the Covenant and why its return will shake the foundations of power. Stolen legacy, hidden proof. Let me show you what happens when truth becomes dangerous, when evidence becomes a threat, when the spiritual birthright of an entire people is rewritten at gunpoint. The Ark of the Covenant isn't some mythical artifact. It's a tangible weapon of divine justice. 2 Chronicles 35 verse 3 records its last known location in Jerusalem, but Jeremiah 3 verse 16 hints at its journey south. For 3,000 years, one place has claimed to guard it, the Church of Our Lady Mary of Zion in Aksum Ethiopia. And the proof is more damning than they want you to know. In 1981, metallurgist Dr. Robert Cornuke tested the gold plating on Ethiopia's replica Arkansas. The results? Gold matching the unique composition of Solomon's mines in Ophir, mines historical records placed in Zimbabwe. But when UNESCO found out, they banned further testing. Ask yourself, what are they afraid we'll discover? Vatican archives tell a damning story. 16th century Portuguese manuscripts describe Ethiopian priests carrying a golden chest that burns the unworthy during festivals. Yet by 1620, European maps labeled Ethiopia as the land of Prester John, a fictional white Christian king. This wasn't just racism, it was spiritual warfare. Now consider Haiti, the first nation where black slaves defeated white masters. Their revolution began on August 14, 1791, during a ceremony at Bois Cayman. But school books omit this. The rebels sang Psalm 68, verse 31. Ethiopia shall stretch forth her hands unto God as they marched. When they declared independence on January 1st, 1804, it marked exactly 40 years since France had abolished slavery in its colonies. 40 years, the same duration as Israel's wanderings in the wilderness. Coincidence or covenant? The symbols are in plain sight. Haiti's original flag in 1804 depicted a black crucified Christ with the inscription Liberty or Death in Creole. French forces burned every copy. The current blue and red version was imposed by France in 1825 as a condition for lifting their naval blockade. Daniel's vision in chapter 7 reveals the Ancient of Days with hair white like pure wool, a description matching 4th century Coptic icons of Jesus found in Egyptian monasteries. These images circulated freely until 1508, when Pope Julius II commissioned Raphael to paint a pale, European Christ for the Sistine Chapel. The spiritual coup was complete. Now observe the pattern. 1521. Spanish conquistadors burned Mayan codices containing messianic prophecies matching Isaiah 53. 1653. Dutch settlers in South Africa forbid slaves from reading Exodus. 1829. Georgia's penal code criminalizes teaching Hebrew to black people. This isn't just oppression. It's systematic deprogramming. Because when Revelation 5 verse 5 declares a lion of the tribe of Judah has prevailed, it invokes a symbol Ethiopia used for 2,000 years, long before European heraldry adopted it. The smoking gun? The Lemba people of Zimbabwe. Genetic testing confirmed their priestly clan carries the CMH marker, the same genetic signature found in Jewish koans. Their oral history speaks of an Ngoma Lungundu, thunder drum, carried from Jerusalem across Africa. Sound familiar? In 2010, archaeologist Tudor Parfitt found remnants of this drum in a Harare museum. Carbon dating placed it at 1350 AD, but it would match the acacia, the material specified in Exodus 25 verse 10, for building the Arkansas. The museum director received death threats hours after the announcement. They hid our past because they fear our future. Deuteronomy 28 verse 13 promised Israel would be the head and not the tail, a prophecy manifesting as Africa now leads in global gold trade. Revelation 21 verse 21. Rare mineral production, Ezekiel 27 verse 22. And the world's fastest growing Christian populations, Isaiah 18 verse 7. But the final clue lies in Revelation 22 verse 16, where Jesus calls himself the bright morning star. Astronomers know this refers to Venus, which rises over Africa before any other continent. The symbolism screams. What Europe called a dark continent was actually God's chosen stage for humanity's redemption story. This is why artifacts keep vanishing. The 1974 theft of 300 Ethiopian manuscripts from Addis Ababa University. The 2003 mysterious fire that destroyed Liberia's national archives. The ongoing looting of Timbuktu's libraries by French-backed militants. They know, and now, will expose the 2,000-year-old African church that preserved the forbidden book of Enoch, Europe's Black Madonnas proving ancient African worship, and why Bitcoin's blockchain fulfills Leviticus 19:35's mandate for just weights and measures. The veil is lifting, the lion is roaring, and no amount of burned manuscripts or forbidden research can stop what was prophesied. The stones themselves will cry out, Luke 19 verse 40. The forbidden scriptures and cryptographic prophecies. The ink was still wet on the parchment when the purge began. In 325 AD, Emperor Constantine's scribes at the Council of Nicaea did something revolutionary. They physically cut entire books from the Bible, not because these texts were heretical, but because they revealed too much. Among the casualties, the Book of Enoch, an ancient text reserved for millennia by one group, the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. Enoch 106:1 describes Noah's birth with shocking details. His flesh was white as snow and red as a rose. The hair of his head was white as wool. A black mother birthing a pale child? This wasn't supernatural. It was albinism. The verse continues. When he opened his eyes, the whole house shone like the sun. The Ethiopian version adds a line omitted elsewhere, and the people feared him for his difference. This changes everything. For 1,700 years, European scholars dismissed the Book of Enoch as legend. Then, in 1773, explorer James Bruce returned from Aksum with 3 Ethiopian copies. The British Museum locked them away until 1821. Why? Because Enoch 98:7 explicitly condemns slave traders. Woe to you who invent lies and alter records, you shall have no peace. But the cover-up runs deeper. The Garima Gospels, illuminated manuscripts hidden in an Ethiopian monastery since 494 AD, contain portraits of dark-skinned Virgin Mary holding an equally dark child Christ. In 2010, radiocarbon dating proved these were the world's oldest Christian illustrations. Yet the Louvre's medieval Black Madonna statues are displayed as exotic anomalies. Their African features explained away as smoke darkening. Let's connect the dots. The oldest Marian apparition, Our Lady of Chenstokhova, was originally painted with Ethiopian features before being lightened in 1430. The Vatican 1610 Guide for African Slaves ordered missionaries to destroy any image of black virgin or child. Spanish conquistadors burned 5,000 hybrid Mayan Christian texts in 1562. A surviving fragment, the Madrid Codex, shows crucifixion imagery with an undeniably black Christ. Now, here's where it gets prophetic. Leviticus 19 verse 35 commands, "Do no injustice in judgment, in measurement of length, weight, or quantity." The Hebrew word for measurement is mishpat, the same term now used for blockchain verification protocols. Coincidence? Consider this timeline. 2009, Bitcoin launches with a Genesis block, quoting the Times headline, "Chancellor on brink of second bailout for banks." 2017, Zimbabwe adopts Bitcoin amid hyperinflation, fulfilling Deuteronomy 28 verse 43. "The foreigner among you will lend to you, but you will not lend to him." 2022, the Central African Republic makes Bitcoin legal tender, the first nation to do so since the gold standard collapsed. The pattern is undeniable. Just as Pharaoh controlled the granaries, Genesis 41, modern banks control fiat currency. But Exodus 12 verses 35 to 36 prophesied a wealth transfer. The Israelites did as Moses instructed. They asked the Egyptians for silver and gold jewelry, and so they plundered Egypt. Now observe the modern parallel. Nigerian cryptocurrency adoption surged 1,200% during the 2020 #EndSARS protests. Kenya's Pesa coin became the first government-backed African crypto. South Africa's Project Coca uses Ethereum to bypass SWIFT sanctions. They told you Africa needed Western banking. But blockchain doesn't discriminate by skin color. It's the ultimate just wait. And it's no accident Satoshi Nakamoto's white paper emerged in 2008, the same year Zimbabwe's economy collapsed under Western sanctions. But the most explosive evidence comes from the Book of Jubilees, another Ethiopian preserved text. Jubilees 8:1-4 describes the division of earth among Noah's sons, assigning Africa to Ham's descendants from the river of Egypt to the Great Sea. The Vatican's 1450 Doctrine of Discovery conveniently ignored this, declaring all pagan lands belonged to Christian monarchs. The smoking gun archaeological proof? In 2018, Dr. Clyde Winters deciphered Olmec hieroglyphs in Mexico, proving transatlantic contact with Mali circa 1310 AD. The inscriptions mention Mande travelers and contain Proto-Hebrew symbols. This explains why Mexican murals depict Quetzalcoatl as a bearded black man. The Dresden Codex includes a Passover-like ritual calendar. Columbus' own logs describe being greeted by black-skinned traders in the Americas. Erasing these connections was no accident. Exodus 23 verse 31 promised Israel would stretch from the Red Sea to the Philistine Sea and from the desert to Euphrates, territory matching the ancient Mali Empire at its peak. Now, the revelation that will rewrite history books. In 2023, spectrographic analysis of the Ark replica's outer coating revealed traces of myrrh and frankincense, the same ingredients as Exodus 30:23's holy anointing oil. But what left researchers breathless was that its molecular structure matched 3,000-year-old samples found, not in Jerusalem, but in Nigerian burial complexes near Ilefe. The implications are staggering. Solomon's gold came from West Africa. The Ophir of 1 Kings 9 verse 28 was likely modern-day Ghana. The Queen of Sheba ruled a Pan-African trade network. The Ark's technology may have African origins. This isn't conjecture, it's chemistry, and it explains why Prince Henry the Navigator spent 20 years searching for Prester John's Christian gold in Africa. The British Museum still holds 900 Benin bronzes displaying Hebrew insignias. A 1584 Spanish edict ordered the destruction of all African writings about Solomon. They didn't just steal our artifacts, they stole our scientific legacy, the forbidden maps and cosmic knowledge. The stars themselves are witnesses. In 1950, French anthropologist Marcel Griaule sat with Dogon elder Ogo Temli under Mali's night sky. What happened next rocked Western cosmology. The elder drew a star map in the sand, showing Sirius A, its invisible companion Sirius B, and a third star astronomers wouldn't confirm until 1995. He called this triple system CG Tolo, describing Sirius B's 50-year elliptical orbit and its composition of the heaviest matter that exists, all from a tribe with no telescopes. But here's what NASA won't tell you. The Dogon astronomical tablets match the star maps in the Temple of Hathor at Dendera, Egypt, maps the French army stole in 1821 and now hide in the Louvre's underground vaults. This is no coincidence. The Dogon creation myth speaks of the Namo, amphibious beings who descended from Sirius in a spinning ark. Compare this to Ezekiel 1 verse 16. A wheel within a wheel, their rims full of eyes all around. The Hebrew word for wheel, ophanim, comes from ophin, meaning to spin, just like the Dogon spinning ark. Now follow the trail of evidence. 1931, German ethnologist Leo Frobenius discovers Ifat bronze heads in Nigeria with quartz eyes displaying pupils within pupils, identical to Ezekiel's description. 1947, a Bedouin shepherd finds the Dead Sea Scrolls, including the Lost Book of Giants, where fallen angels teach Enoch astronomy. 2016, digital scans reveal a hidden layer in the Dendera zodiac, showing the suspected orbit of Sirius C. We've been lied to for centuries. In 1487, Portuguese explorers arrive at the court of Oba Ozoiwa of Benin. His astronomers present a bronze armillary sphere tracking Jupiter's moons, 41 years before Galileo's telescope. Portuguese records admit, these blacks possess art surpassing ours. By 1553, that same sphere was in the Vatican Observatory, labeled a gift from Christian princes. The cover-up peaks with a Pyrie Reis map, discovered in 1929 at Topkapi Palace. This 1513 Ottoman map shows Antarctica's ice-free coastline, last visible in 4000 BC. The exact length of the Amazon River, not officially calculated until 1768. Mountain ranges under Greenland's ice, confirmed by radar in 2018. But the map's inscriptions reveal its true origin. These lands were drawn from 20 source maps, some from the Library of Alexander the Great, and 4 from the time of Solomon. One of those sources appears in the Keber Nagast, Ethiopia's national epic. Chapter 60 describes a celestial map given to Solomon by the Queen of Sheba, showing lands beyond the Western Sea where copper-skinned men build towers to the sun. This aligns with 2008 discovery of cocaine and tobacco in Egyptian mummies, plants exclusive to the Americas. Olmec pyramids aligned to Sirius' Eliacal rise. The Back Creek stone found in Tennessee, inscribed in Paleo-Hebrew. The implications shatter official history. When Spanish chronicler Pedro de Cieza de Leon asked Incan priests about Tiahuanaco's ruins in 1549, they replied, "This was built before Christ's time by bearded men from overseas who knew the stars as shepherds know their flocks." Now, the smoking gun. In 2012, physicist Dr. Ronald Mallet proved Einstein right. Time could be bent using lasering gyroscopes. His design was based on Dogon copper spirals depicting the twisted path of the Namo's arc. Egyptian Ankhs and Hebrew menorahs share the same double helix geometry, a blueprint for what Tesla called nature's wheel. This explains why. Moses' ark had a mercy seat with 2 golden cherubim, possibly a capacitor. Solomon's temple had no windows, 1 Kings 6 verse 4, because it housed light-generating tech. The Urim and Thummim used for divination were likely crystal frequency devices. They called it magic in black hands, science when stolen by white hands. But the final nail in colonialism's coffin comes from linguistics. In 2020, an AI analysis of 2,000 languages revealed Proto-Niger-Congo is the root of 40% of ancient Hebrew's agricultural terms, 60% of Egyptian spiritual vocabulary, the very word pharaoh from Yoruba Orifin, head of the palace. That's why 19th century missionaries burned Benin's Iroko messaging system, bundles of seeds and shells proving African writing predated the Phoenician alphabet. Why? Because Jeremiah 8 verse 8 warns, "The lying pen of the scribes has turned the law into falsehood." In our final installment, we'll expose 3,000-year-old Hebrew inscriptions in Grand Canyon caves, how Haitian Vodou encodes David's lost Psalms, why Elon Musk's Neuralink fulfills Revelation 13:16's Mark prophecy. But remember this, when European explorers discovered Victoria Falls in 1855, the Kololo tribe called them Mosutinya, the smoke that thunders. The same phrase appears in Psalm 42 verse 7. Deep calls to deep at the roar of your waterfalls. All your breakers and waves have gone over me. The truth was always here, written in the stars, carved in the stones, flowing in the blood. They could burn our libraries, but they couldn't destroy our memory. If this video shook you, if it made you angry, awaken, or question everything, then you owe it to your ancestors too. Smash that like button. YouTube's algorithm hides these truths. Subscribe, because part 2 exposes the Vatican's stolen African Gospels. Comment truth below. Let's build a community of real seekers. This is bigger than one video. It's about awakening, and that starts with you. Share this, discuss it, and never stop asking questions. The truth isn't lost. It was just waiting for this moment.